And to help us understand some of this stuff, I want to invite on stage our guests today. So I would like to invite Murli Karapatu, who is the group. Um, Kindly give them a hand, please. Murli is the group product manager for smart cities and IoT. They call them the smart connected communities. He is based out of Bangalore, and he has come here specifically for this event. And welcome Murli for being here. Next we have Sudhir Kulkarni, who's come here from the Bay Area. He's based out of Santa Clara, and he is the president of our digital business. And then we have on the corner out there Mark Simpson, who is somebody actually is a very interesting partner of ours. One of the deals that we had done with IBM early on was the TNPM project, and in the TNPM project, Mark used to be our customer, and we worked very closely with him. And I told Mark that anytime you feel restless, you have a place to come. And we were able to get him to join us in towards the end of June, early July. And he has been running the entire CE/CLM project for us. He's based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, 30 plus years at IBM, and now 8 exciting months at Persistent. Now let me, all of you have mics. Can we just do a quick mic check so that you guys are audible?
Hello everyone. Check.
Right. So let me now start with Murli and ask you, Murli, what does Cisco think about IoT, and what's the Cisco point of view, and how do you see this unfolding in the future?
Sure. So if you look at Cisco, when Chuck Robbins took over from John Chambers, a lot of things have changed at Cisco, right? I think probably you can vouch for it. But one thing that has not changed is the IoT vision. And in fact, when Chuck came on board, he acquired Jasper, and we paid quite a bit. That's an IoT platform. People doesn't know about it. So there is a lot of investment that's happening about in IoT. And we released a white paper a couple of years back saying there is $19.2 trillion of value creation that can happen over a period of next 10 years. That's, I lose zeros after beyond a billion, right? So it's quite a lot of money, right? And I come from smart cities, so I can speak more on smart cities. And we said there are $4.2 trillion of value creation that will happen in smart cities alone. And just to give an example, there are 4 to 5 billion of LED lights, street lights, that will get changed into LED the next 4 or 5 years, right? By changing to LED, cities are going to save between $4 to $5 on an average per street light. So you multiply the math. So quite a bit of value creation, energy savings that will happen. So quite a lot of money that's out there for us to grab. And coming to Cities Vision itself, we launched our 2.0 of our platform, what we call as Connected Digital Platform in Barcelona on 14th of November. And you will see that we are today around, we operate around 100 cities around the world with our platform. Now we want to take that to 1,000 cities. So vision of Cisco is that to create something like an Android for cities. So think about it, right? Android is, if you think Android is complex, because they solved a very complex problem, because all of us have different kinds of phone. I have a Chinese phone, somebody might be having a Sony, Samsung. So if you're an app developer, how do you keep pace with the hardware changes? And at some point, all of these hardwares are going to get commoditized, right? So what Android did is that they allowed Ubers of the world or Olas of the world to continuously not worry about what is the hardware changes that is happening on the platform level or at the hardware level, chipsets, Intel, they don't care, right? As long as they connect to Android, they can, doesn't worry about what kind of hardware or phone I use. Now think of it, apply the same logic to cities to see that it's even more, multiply the complexity by 1,000, and that's what you get in cities, right? You're going to have different kind of technologies, LoRa, Zigbee, Wi-Fi, and each of these devices are, new technologies are emerging, Sigfox, you name it, right? Now cities are going to adopt different technologies. Now, how do you keep pace from an app perspective? That's what Cisco is trying to do. We are creating an Android for cities, and that cities doesn't have to worry about the underlying hardware infrastructure, but they still focus on the outcomes that they want to deliver to citizens, right? That's where I think Persistence plays a couple of roles, I would say. One is you are a part of our engineering. So you are actually co-creating this platform with Cisco, but you're also, as a becoming a product company, I see that you've also developed and partnering an app perspective. So you are developing app on CDP, and then we can go to market together. So I see two roles that Persistent we can play together.
Thanks. Let me now ask Mark to sort of fill in this one. So, as Murli explained the vision, we have now, as you are all aware, the CCLM product portfolio. How does the CCLM product portfolio play along with the digital and the IoT vision that Murli articulated a bit?
I think it's important to kind of start with real world examples, I think, where technology is technology and it doesn't matter if it doesn't solve a problem. So I think you might start with even telecom, and it doesn't sound like that's perhaps Internet of Things, but it's an industry that's been around a long time. It's very hardware centric. But one of the problems they have is driving costs down, of course, but also providing more services more quickly. And really the way they can do that is turning themselves into a software development shop, right? So it's all about software defined things. And in that case, it's software defined networking, right? And if you think about that, if it's software and you're coming from a company that's traditionally thinking about fiber optic cables and handsets and those sorts of things, that's kind of a new business for them, and they need help doing that. Maybe a better example, and we saw the Tesla example up here earlier, is an automotive space where, traditionally it's very, again, kind of hardware and system centric, but at the end of the day, they're trying to provide a better user experience when you're driving your car, when you're trying to get your car maintained and those sorts of things. And the way you can do that, again, is through agility and software. So just a fun fact, the Ford F-150, it's a very popular vehicle in the United States. I'm from Texas, actually, so I know very well what a Ford F-150 is. It's the most popular car in all of America. 150 million lines of code in the 2016 Ford F-150. So you think of that, it's tires, it's an engine, it's the traditional things you think of in a car or hardware, but what it really is kind of a data center, a set of applications on wheels, as Anand was talking about. So what do these examples mean in terms of software and the acquisition we Persistent did? If you think about all the decades of experience we have in IT developing applications and the set of tools that we have, that's very much applicable to these environments like telecom, like washing machines, like cars, because they have to understand that whole life cycle of development when it starts with what is the design, how do you model that, what are the requirements, and then I've got to start writing code, and I've got to do it in a very agile way. And that's where this whole notion of continuous delivery comes in. And Anand talked about servicing the vehicle. In fact, it's even more important than that. And he talked about upgrading a car. It's adding a better user experience with that person behind the wheel. And the way you do that is software applications and some of those 150 million lines of code. So I think one of the things that we're very well positioned with this set of tooling that we have and we've acquired is helping these customers like Boeing building big airplanes, like Ford Motor Company, like BMW, or Whirlpool building washing machines, is build this continuous delivery software through a set of tools that are proven and scalable.
Great. Sudhir, can you suggest how this importance of speed, iterative development, and some of the things that both Murli alluded to and Mark mentioned, how are they being played into our digital platform?
Sure. So one thing I do want to tell everyone is that there is in your takeaway bags, there is a document that has been printed and sort of shared with all of you. It talks about our point of view, the how of digital and the point of view about digital. And that's kind of where it relates to. So when Murli talks about how we can build experiences for, say, smart cities, there's a whole bunch of things that we are doing in this space that are building these experiences as quickly as we can. And that cannot happen unless you have a data API and an experiences mindset. And that mindset change in terms of trying to put together that infrastructure or that system inside of the enterprise is the key. So you can have all the sensor-based products that Cisco would offer, the networking products that Cisco would offer, or all the processes that Mark's team would have, but ultimately inside of an enterprise, you need to have a mindset change, and you need to have a view, which we are calling as a platform-centric view. So you need to create a platform that allows you to do that fork in the spend of technology on technology. So you need to make sure that there is a different, set of systems and processes that are implemented for IT modernization, and what you do for digital transformation has a very different platform-centric view that allows you to build these experiences at speed. And when we start building those experiences at speed, it's about focusing on tasks, and Anand mentioned specific task-based experiences. For example, the upgrade of the car is one task, right? It doesn't matter what your entire back-end systems are, your experience that the customer gets or the consumer gets has to be very quick, immediate, and it leverages all the systems and the interconnectivity that you have internally. So that's how I think we are building those systems, Anand.
I think we are doing well on time, so I would just open the floor out for any questions that you might have. While Murli, if you want to add anything to some of what was said, you can say that, but we'll take maybe a couple of questions from the audience if you have any questions from the panel here. If you just raise your hand, then I'll know. Can you just tell me your name and then please stand up, we can see you. Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah. Yes, Viju.
Much larger portion of the value chain is captured by the other constituents in the system, such as software players, etc. I'm not sure how much value capture the services player or system integrator is getting in this whole process. Thanks.
Yeah, all of us are impatient to answer this question for you, but let me get Murli's point of view and then Sudhir, and I would refer you to an IDC report that came out recently, which focuses on exactly that issue. Go ahead.
So one thing you'd realize that no single company can do this alone. So you need an ecosystem of partners to create this final experience that you may want to give it to a citizen, right? So let's take a simple example to a citizen or to a city, right? So let's say a light is, for example, if you take Chicago, they open up any data, any IoT data to their citizens to consume. They may not allow them to control, but they know at any point of time how many lights are working in my city, right? Now, there are many interesting things that you can do once you have that information. So one startup created an app that if you're coming out of a metro station at say 11 p.m. in the night, and you have to walk the last mile, right, at 11 p.m. So what this guide does is, this app tells you which route you have to take the last mile, but they also overlay the crime information on top of it. So it will tell you that there is already a crime-prone area that you're walking, and out of 500 lights, maybe 200 lights are not working. So it may not be a good idea for you to walk. That's where the Uber button comes and say, call taxi, right? So you'll have to monetize at some point. But the thing is that now we'll have to get crime data, you'll have to get tax data, you'll have to get environment data. Now all of this data has to come, that's where the services play comes into. So it's no single, the final experience, if you have to really give it, just not the sensors, but how do you really give contextual information? That's very important. If you're driving on a highway, the dashboard tells you that you're running out of petrol. Right, that's very simple information. But if it tells you that in the next 3 kilometers there is no petrol pump, gas station, and if you don't fill it in now, if you miss this one, then you're out. You may have to push your vehicle. That's very powerful. To give that experience, no single sensor can give you. You need services, you need additional information to bring that experience. Mark and...
So I'm going to sort of break it into 3 areas where services play is very, very important. So I think it's a very good question and relevantly asked for Persistent to answer. So one is, who's building those experiences? What does it mean really in terms of understanding exactly what a consumer needs? So that experience is building itself is a tremendous amount of work that is involved there. Conceiving of the application, making sure that the right kind of user experience, your UI frameworks are put in place. That is very important, and that's a services play. Now, stringing those experiences together in the IFTTT model that Anand talked about, so that you could probably allow the enterprise stakeholders to build those applications by themselves rapidly, right? That stringing together, or that whole management of the APIs, or building of the APIs even, where none exist. Sometimes the APIs may not be in your control, they may be outside your organization, you need to bring them in. That's again a services play, which is a very big services play. And last but not the least, the data that comes out of all your internal systems that needs to play, or even sensors and IoT devices that needs to come into play to be able to make some actionable insight happen and sense happen inside the application, that's again a services play. So if you break it down into those three layers, there's a huge amount of opportunity. In fact, the way I'm looking at it is that every single engagement that we get into, whether we've gotten into the enterprise through any of our platform partner relationships, every single one of them has a digital blueprint that is being implemented inside of those organizations. It's our job to now try to get those digital blueprints and make them and activate them in all these three.
Actually, in one of the sessions we have an IoT thing we'll explain to you, but the overall observation is that if you spent say $1 trillion of revenue in the devices side, there's about 4 trillion on the network and 25 trillion on the data and analytics put together. So the entire IoT business is all about data and monetization. The sensors and other things are all a place for this to happen. And unless companies are willing to find the monetization model, the sensors are not very valuable. So you're not really interested in just tracking it. You want to monetize that data very effectively. So the action is going to be in the data and monetization as the first round of devices get implemented. Let me take one more question. I think we are doing well. So we have till 11:15. So yeah. Can you just name yourselves again?
Question is more of a follow-up question on Viju's question.
Sure.
You said that it'll take multiple number of players to get the integration done. So in real life, how easy or difficult is it to get these implementations?
See, if we looked at the past architectures, it would have been very hard. But as I said, this IFT model and APIs is going to make it much simpler than it has ever been before. That's my comment. And you guys want to add anything to it?
I just want to give you one example. So instead of trying to, let me see if I can explain this with an example. So I was talking to the CIO, a new CIO of a semiconductor equipment manufacturer in the Bay Area, and they have data on wafers, the silicon wafers from which they get the chips out. They have data for the last 50 years, right, about how to optimize and maximize the number of throughput, number of chips that you get out of a single wafer, because that wafer is a natural product. And that data is just sitting there, right? So when we got talking to him, we were talking about something completely different, and this topic came up, that what do I do with this data? And we were talking about how can they monetize that data? How can they look at every single customer that they have? So they may have Intel and AMD and others as customers. But at the same time, when these fabs have been put together, all that data, some of that data is Intel's data or AMD's data. But really speaking, it is there in equipment that has generated that data. So if they can obfuscate that, so that's the job that we have, to be able to make sure that it's normalized, it's obfuscated as far as the customers are concerned, and some sense is made out of that data, so that they can actually offer this as a service. So effectively creating a new business model out of it, saying can that data be offered as a service to their customers, in addition to the equipment that they're selling for making the fabs. That's the kind of digital work that I would say has tremendous potential. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think the other thing is, hold that question for the afternoon sessions. You should ask this question in every session that you are in the afternoon. Be small groups, and they will exactly show you what it takes to do some of this work. And the hackathon that we have, work starting at 7 a.m. to end at 3 p.m. So it's just 5 plus 3, 8 hours. And they have of course have API layers, but you will see how these experiences are built very quickly. So we'll answer that question before the end of the day. Let's see if there are any more questions. Okay, while that comes up, so can you comment a bit on how the market is taking this on, and what kind of things are customers doing?
Sure. I think one of the common questions that we get asked is, how real is this, right? People have been talking on PowerPoints. Is it really there? Is it really there? I think, for example, when we launched this in Barcelona, and we have seen this in the last 4 or 5 years, it's no longer customers are asking, what is smart city, right? Why smart city? I think that question is pretty much answered everywhere. Now they're asking us, how do we do smart city? So according to me, there are 4 yardsticks, if you may, to measure what we call when is the tipping point of from PowerPoint to reality, right? One is our customers asking for it. I answered that in my previous thing where a lot of LED conversion is happening, parking are becoming so a lot smart cities. Of course, in India we can see it much more real. 100 smart cities vision of our prime minister. So it's definitely customers are asking for it. So that definitely that's one parameter. The second parameter is the VC community, right? Our VCs seeing this as a real opportunity to invest. And if you do Google, some of the biggest investment that's happening in this space is IoT, right? For example, in the last 2 weeks, two big acquisitions has happened. Verizon acquired a company called Sensity. Then Netgear acquired today, I think if you see it, Netgear acquired a company called PlaceMeter. These are small companies, startup companies, which have a shelf life of 2 years, and the valuation that you see is mind-boggling. So it is real, and as you all know, VCs don't look at 10 years horizon, right? So they look at 2-3 years. So if there's something they see it's not real, I don't think they'll put their money there. So definitely the second thing is, the third one is competition. Now, if you ask me 5 to 6 years back, maybe Cisco and IBM must be sitting here. You will not see anybody else, right? But today, you take Google. All of these guys have an IoT practice. GE,
Even Salesforce.
Microsoft. All the big companies, you just name any big company, they have created, not only the individual product companies like us, but the SPs are getting into this space, right? SPs are realizing that this data is the next big thing, right? And they're going to lose out if they don't play, right? That's why Verizon went and acquired Sensity, because there are competing technologies that is coming. If the data is not coming to your network through 3G, 4G, or LTE, there are competing technologies like LoRa. LoRa is an equivalent technology for sensors, which means that the VSPs will not even see that data or money when they don't capture. That's why it's more about market capturing. How do I make sure that my sensors are there and I capture that data into my network. So that is happening, right? And fourth but not the least is the academic activity, right? So we have been asked at least 3 or 4 big leading universities around the world to create curriculums on smart cities, right, on IoT. When I say smart cities, it's smart cities plus IoT. So there is a demand generation that's happening, saying that there is a demand that's coming. How do I now equip myself, create the talent to meet that need? I think I see all this activity for. I'm sure maybe you may have a couple of 2 more, but these are my hard yardsticks to see is it real or is it PowerPoint.
Anybody else have a question that you want to ask? Okay, so since you're all very anxious to see what's next, let me just walk you through the rest of what you will see today. So, last time, I'll tell you how this whole thing happened. In our previous sessions, we had shown demos on the stage one after the other. And what was felt was that, when you have a demo like this, there are a few hundred people sitting in, you can't really ask questions, you can't really see if it is real. And the other problem is that, people somehow feel that those demos are fake, okay? So that was another problem. So then last year what we did was we said, okay, let's then create 8 tracks. We had 8 tracks. We repeated the same thing again and again 4 times. We gave 30 minutes to each of them and we did these 8 tracks. And the feedback we got was actually very good. People thought that they really had a chance to talk to the engineers, see what's going on and really participate in that. But they also felt that since there were 8, that was too much for people to really see, and they couldn't really get to all 8 tracks clearly. That was not possible. So this time we decided to reduce the number of tracks, and we have gone to 5 tracks right now. And I'm going to show them in a minute. And the other thing we started out with this was also to actually get something substantial built out through a hackathon. So what we did was we have identified some of the same platforms that you will see where we are going to show you demo type stuff. The same platforms we gave to a bunch of enthusiastic young persistent employees to create these teams. So we have 5 teams. So there's a team Alpha Beta, which is using blockchain for contracts. So they're going to build out whatever blockchain requirements are, taking the blockchain platform for contract management. We had the help of Abhishek Kumar from JM Financials. Abhishek, are you in the room? Hey, thanks a lot, Abhishek, for helping us out. And at the end of the session at 3 o'clock, when his team is complete, we're going to ask him what did he think about the experience. But some of the work that they have done is that they have given the problem to their team as saying, okay, look at this kind of contract. So these problems have been done and set up in collaboration with people from your community. He's got another one for identity and validation on blockchain. And we created one team called Dr. Watson, which is analyzing unstructured data for managing portfolios. And we have Priya here, who's been the one who's going to be the leader and telling us what to do. We have Sandeep Agarwal from Edelweiss helping out on Team Dynamic Innovators on how to build a cashless application. Where is Sandeep Agarwal? He's not come. You are his substitute today. What's your name? Okay, Pranav Kshatriya is here from Edelweiss, and they have given the problems for this team. And then we have a modified analyst team, which is the last one, which Sandeep Mutangi, is he here? I have not seen him. You are, okay, Aniruddha is here. So we are doing something around social media sentiment analytics against demonetization. That should be interesting to find out, who is the more vocal set of people. So that's really what we are going to do in the part where we are running the hackathon. The interesting thing that we have tried to do is these hackathon teams are working in the atrium and the lobby. You will pass through them and they are really in the midst of things. You can ask them questions and see what they are doing. And we'll kind of explain to you how you can get a lot done in a short period of time if you kind of get the energy together. And we are following this as a process as part of the digital projects that we are doing and in many of our customer accounts. And as I said, we have these 5 sessions that we have created as 5 tracks. So I'm going to bring all these tracks up and then explain to you what's going to happen. So we have identified rooms for these tracks, and there are 3 sessions that will run one after the other sequentially. So first session will start at 11:30, go on till 12:10. The next one will be from 12:15 to 12:55. At 1 o'clock, we'll have lunch for an hour, 1 to 2. We start again at 2 to 2:40. So 3 sessions, 3 things will happen. In all of these sessions, in track 1, track 2, and track 3, all of them will repeat the same thing 3 times. So in the same room, they'll do the same thing 1, 2, and 3 times. So you can pick the one that you want to go to at different times, but the same thing will be repeated 3 times. And in track 4, we are going to use share insights and data analytics kind of work that we have in the first 2 parts in the morning. And we are going to use that same thing to show a smart cities application of share insights and some of the work we are doing in digital governance as part of the 3rd session. And then finally, we have this last session, which is a potpourri solo track. Those sessions will be run only once. They are more like tutorials and examples. So one is around blockchain, the other one is around machine learning, and the third one is some of the internal transformation, life at persistent, Pi, and augmented reality type work that we are doing here. So now here's the thing that you have to figure out. You'll get three full sessions to attend. You can choose the 3 sessions you want to attend. We'll hope that, we'll do some dynamic balancing of groups in some sense. So you can go to, say, the track 1 in the first one, track 2, track 3 in the 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 1, or whatever else you might like. Look, it's your choice, whichever one you want to go to. We have about 140 people who have registered for this session. If you look at sort of even distribution, we should have, 30 and 40 people in sort of less than between 25 and 30 people, let's say, in each of these sessions, which should be a good group to really ask questions and really ask the questions, both the questions. Is there something for services to do, and how easy is it to do this, right? So that's really the objective for today. There'll be coffee and other things at various places. Lunch will be at 1 o'clock. Now, after we are done with this 2:40, 2:45, we have 3 Q&A sessions. We'll come back here. In the first part, at 3 o'clock, we complete the final on the hackathon. Then we are going to invite the analysts who were responsible for the hackathon to share what they saw from the hackathon. So that would be one from 3 to 3:30. And then at 3:30 to 4, we would like to get reactions on what you saw in these tracks that you were at. And then from 4 to 4:30 or so, in the last half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll do an open Q&A to answer all your other questions you might have. Okay, so we have a packed day for you, and we're trying out different kinds of opportunities for you to see different formats in different parts of this building. So you'll be walking around a bit. So those of you who are counting your steps, I'm sure you will get your steps today. Any last questions before I end here? Is the sort of mechanics quite clear? We have enough people who will be around to help you go from one room to the other. There's one set of rooms on this side and a couple downstairs. But if you go down in the main atrium and then plan which ones you want to go to, that could be a good way to go. So thank you very much for being here. I would like to thank Murli, Sudhir, and Mark for being part of this panel and sharing their insights. And I'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank you, and we'll see you again in the evening. Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot.